to another episode of Omnissiah Approved. Today I'm going to be starting a new series of tutorials that I'm going to be calling the Quick Tips videos. Just random odds and ends for painting that I do and would like to share with everyone out there, so maybe it can help someone or inspire someone to try something new. Today we are going to be working on a cloak for a Eliminator. These Marines are basically the Primaris version of scout snipers, and they have camo cloaks to go with it. We're wanting to do a urban camo type of vibe with it, not quite what you see on the box, but something similar. One of the things with doing that can be intimidating for a lot of painters is it's basically freehand, and freehand can be a very scary concept for someone who's not used to it. I, for one, am not an expert in freehand, would never claim to be, and honestly, it kind of intimidates me. So I find little projects like this to be kind of liberating. You're basically doing abstract shapes and different bits of geometry here and there on the back of the cloth of the cloak, and there's not really a right or wrong way to do it. If you mess up, you just go back over it, fix your mistake, and move on. Like I said, there's no right or wrong way to it. So hopefully this can inspire you to try something new, and maybe you'll enjoy the result. Also, I will say that I make a mistake in this, and it's also very important to the creative process to know how to deal with your mistakes. They will happen. The best painters in the world have to scrap entire projects and start over, and it's very important to remember it's just paint. These are plastic army men that we are putting paint on. If you mess up, paint over it. If you're worried about obscuring detail, wash off the paint that's already on it and then paint it again. It's not that big of an issue if you make a mistake. Alright, so here we have our in-progress Eliminator. As you can see, he's being painted with the contrast method, so he has been primed white ahead of time. Now, going into this, it's important to remember that you need to be very careful while you're going around your model, especially when you're doing contrast paint. You need to make sure that you don't get a lot of overspill onto the areas you've already painted or areas you're going to paint. In most cases, anyway. So, to start with the base color for it, we are going to use Vallejo Game Colors Basalt Gray. It's a really good pigment. It's very strong, so it's going to cover this white in pretty much one coat. Now, I did thin this slightly, and you just want to go around being very careful and hit every part where the cloak is. This is going to be an all-over coat. Do make sure if you do thin it down to not thin it too much, as the white can kind of shine through and you'll end up having it be kind of patchy. But if you do, just go over with another coat and it should clean it up fairly nicely. Next up, we're going to Citadel Base Celestra Gray. It's a much lighter value, so I have this thinned down very significantly. This is going to aid you in getting your sharp lines to do your shapes. Basically, you're just going to go and make whatever abstract shape makes you happy. I prefer to go with semi-straight lines. If you want to go with more of a desert or woodland camo, then just blobs of color tend to be the better way to go. The one thing you do want to try to do is avoid making any perceivable patterns. I don't do a great job of that with this one. But this was just me kind of playing around and having a little bit of fun. This color will take at least 2 thin coats. It'll go on super nice and super smooth. You just have to make sure to take your time with it. But just follow around the model. Any spot you think you need to put down a little blob, but just make sure to start coloring it in. Take your time. If you do make any egregious mistakes outside of your lines, go neaten it back up with a little bit of the basalt color. And after you're done, you should have something that looks like this. Like I said, you can go as densely packed or as sparsely packed as you want with any of the patterns you're doing. And it may actually be a neat thing to do to vary it up between models. But going into the next step, we've got Vallejo Air Black. Quickly becoming my favorite black. Even though it's super thinned down, it covers very well. So basically, I just like to go and make some smaller geometric shapes, different triangles and diamonds and things. Here's where a lot of the patterning that I accidentally did kind of comes into play. You can see a lot of straight lines and just a lot of play between the shapes that I do, but that ends up being somewhat corrected, though I didn't plan on correcting it at the time. You'll see what I mean in a second. So just follow around just like you did with the Celestra Gray and do a similar process. Just take your time, finish when you're happy with it. Alright, so after it dries, you should end up with something that looks about like this. It's really cool. The paints that I used turned out to be a little bit glossier than I wanted, so I thought that I would use my favorite essential oil, Nuln Oil. And here's where my mistake kind of happened. I used Nuln Oil just out of a pot. I probably should have thinned it down. The objective here was to matte everything down and kind of unify the colors. I didn't really want to apply too much shade. But as I started to put it on, I kind of had that moment of, this is a little bit more streaky than I wanted, but, you know, I was already in. So I kind of just spread it on, and it's like, you know, I can just highlight it and fix it later. What ended up happening was I ended up with a streaky, grimy mess that took a little bit more effort for me to fix than I wanted to use, and it actually ended up decreasing the quality of the overall product. Yeah, after letting the wash dry for a little bit, I came back, had a bit of an existential crisis, and decided to just crack on. So I went back with a little bit more of the basalt colors, actually basalt with a little bit of Celestra Gray in it. Tried to make like a little bit of a highlight for it. So just going around and picking out the areas that I had the gray beforehand, but I was trying to focus a little bit more on successive coats on the raised areas of the cloth. Just kind of pick out the areas that the cloth would naturally be highlighted by the light. This model isn't going to be the best one to actually show that, considering the the griminess of it. But just follow the raised areas of the cloak. It's not difficult to do. Same thing with the next color, went back with Celestra Gray. I'm trying to focus a little bit heavier on the raised area, but eventually I just decided to go ahead and do another all-over coat within my patterns. Another side effect of this was my patterns ended up getting messed up. They kind of, you know, wasn't really the vision I had ahead of time. But, you know, you live, you learn. This kind of brings me back to the point that I made. It's all just paint on plastic. It doesn't really affect anything at the end of the day. It still ended up being a decent model for an army. Like, it's not going to win any awards, but that's not why I painted it. I'm just trying to get models on the tabletop. A painted model will always, always be better than an unpainted one. So sit back, watch me try to salvage this wreck, and we'll speak a little bit more at the end. Having to basically repaint this cloak was I was able to be a little bit more random with the placement of my black highlights, or of my black patterning. Like I said, it ended up being a bit different than I initially planned, but that's fine. You know, we adapt, it's what we do. But the important thing about this, and I hope is what you take from this, is the ease of which you can create a decently convincing camo pattern. Like I say, this works with literally anything. Another thing I've had great success with was doing a base coat and then just doing stripes running diagonally on the cloak. It looked really cool. I had an entire group of scout snipers done up that way. Yeah, so looking at it after the fact, yeah, there's mistakes that were made, but yeah, I'm decently happy with it. At least it gets everything going. So, I hope that you guys enjoyed the video. I hope that you've learned something. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And I'll probably try to do this again and be a little bit more precise with the method. This was actually the second time that I had done this particular pattern. So my inexperience shining through here, but you know, you live with your mistakes. I think it's important to not try to wash away or hide from the mistakes you make. So putting this up on here is as much a reminder to me to practice my method a bit more before sending it to you guys. But anyway, as always, this video has been Omnissiah approved. Thank you all for watching.